bonding that neighborhood work. Then once that work is paid off, and it really remains to be seen if they're going to bond it for 10 or 15 years. I'm assuming they know, but I just haven't paid enough attention. Once that work is all paid off, because this is an operating override, not a debt exclusion override, those dollars will still be there for capital, which is not, a huge sum of money. And Roger McPeak did share with the select board at their meeting a couple of weeks ago that it's not enough to address McCall right away, the failing facade or some of the other issues we have, but it might be enough to cover the debt service on a new roof for McCall or Ambrose. So it's something. So anyway, that's kind of how that went. Before I get to the Moody stuff though, Jay, can Andy introduce, we have a guest from Hill with us tonight, I think.
So I want to introduce Mark Krikorian. He's the assistant project manager. That will be helping us throughout, starting now through the, hopefully we can move forward in January. So he'll be helping throughout the project. Mark has been behind the scene with a lot of paperwork, but just want to have him here tonight with us.
Welcome, Mark.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mark, welcome.
Welcome.
Nice to have you with us tonight. Okay, so then the other thing I think I was supposed to talk about tonight, and I'm trying to pull up the website.
Is the bond rating.
Yeah, it's the bond rating. I'm trying to pull up the website real quick just so people can see this. So I got it, and just bear with me. You guys should be able to see that.
Yes.
Okay. So to refresh people's memories from our last meeting before town meeting and anybody who wasn't with us at that time, we did update the cost page. So there's a breakdown of construction cost, total project budget, the facilities grant, and then our net cost along with the residential tax impact. We did have the opportunity to touch on this briefly at the town meeting presentation. The property tax impact on the median home value based on borrowing almost the full amount of the net, like it's around $73 million to get us going, would be just under $55 per 100,000 or a little under $700 a year for an average home value of 1.26. So the one bit of news for town meeting, and we had a little bit of a heads up from Beth Rudolph on this by a few days, so it was helpful. Our AAA bond rating comes from Moody's. Moody's has notified a number of communities in Massachusetts that they're going through a due diligence process. They're kind of reevaluating their AAA ratings, given some communities' debt loads. That process, I don't think, has started yet. It should be complete by the end of December. If by some circumstance Winchester should get downgraded to AA prime, there was a lot of concern about what consequence would that have.
I'm on a call.
What's that, Meg?
Where are you, at home or in the office?
Just.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so anyway, there was some concern about what a downgrade would mean. And certainly that would bear on the minds of town meetings. So the town's municipal bonding consultant that actually came up with those initial models did an updated run, even based on the Fed's latest 75 basis points they threw at us a couple of weeks ago. The premium for going down to AA prime amounts to like $14 or $15 a year. So not a huge impact. In order of magnitude, it would still cost around $700 a year. So Beth did share the bonding review news during her presentation, the opening night. And then I wanted to be careful to acknowledge this in our presentation Thursday night. Didn't get a lot of questions, but if you hear about it, and in particular, if it should happen, that would be the magnitude of the impact. Related to this, management has also made the point that I think Moody's, there's like 14 or 15 communities in Massachusetts that have Moody's AAA ratings, but many others are rated by Standard & Poor's. And there are like 75 or 76 communities with an S&P AAA rating. So that's another option for the town. If they want to, they could go that route. I think that sort of summarizes my comments today, but I will just share with the committee. We have updated the website to reflect town meetings approval as well as the MSBA. Once we get a link to the presentation, I'll throw it up here. And I also just want to let people know there's a little addition here too. So Mary Ellen Lannon, our town clerk, she's not going to be holding early in-person voting for anyone who did that during the primaries of the general election. You know, they had like polling places set up at the clerk's office. However, you can still vote by mail if you want an absentee ballot, if you're not going to be in town or what have you. So there's a process for that. If you click on these links, it actually takes you directly to her forms. And there's a link here to her website on the clerk's page where you can get more information. So for folks who are going to have difficulty being there on January 7th, you've got some options. One of my kids is now a registered voter and she's going to be out of the country. So she's going to be voting for Lynch before January 7th. That's pretty much it as far as the website updates, Jay.
All right. Moving on to swing space update from Charlie.
Hi, let's see here. I can find it. I've lost it. Oh, there it is.
And Frank, can you let Charlie share if he doesn't?
Yeah, I'm still struggling to find my document, but
Yeah, he's got it. I cannot help him find the document, however.
I'm not sure anybody can. This is getting pretty pathetic here. All right, let's try that. Okay, folks, share screen. Okay, you see that?
Success.
Hmm?
Success.
Yes.
Success. It only took me like an hour and a half to figure out how to do it. That's what our tech guy in the office calls OE, operator error, which you just have to account for sometimes. So this is the kind of updated site plan for the Parkhurst modulars, and we're looking at 14 modular classrooms of some size that will be determined by the vendor. And we're kind of saying 650 to 800 square feet, which is our assumption. Anything bigger than that's not even going to fit on the site. The final configuration of how the modulars are laid out was to try to keep the modulars far enough away from the existing building that they could be treated by building code as separate buildings. The fire department, after a couple of meetings, as well as the building department, did not want the two buildings to be connected. So there's no all-weather connection. There's no covered walkway. These are truly separate. Students will have to go outside to get to them, or go outside to get into the existing Parkhurst. The building has been rotated, as you can see. It used to be more kind of parallel to the existing building in order to maintain the lower parking spaces. So we get 11 parking spaces in the existing parking lot. And then we, of course, as we always have talked about, have brand new temporary parking lot up on the softball field. The town does want to have pavement. We talked about whether there was some more pervious material we could use, but the town's view is got to be able to plow it. So we're talking about a binder coat, probably no top coat. It'll be there for 2 years. There will be some drainage associated with it underground, just to manage the stormwater in this area, because we're the added impervious. There will be a ramp system that comes down the hill that we're hoping can be done just using aluminum ramps that modular companies supply all the time anyway. But if we do that, that means we're not kind of trying to regrade and we're just floating this thing like a boardwalk. Students would leave the pickup drop-off zone. They'd come down an accessible ramp to the Andrews Road side of the modular. then students who I believe are going to be the older students could and go up a ramp and enter into the modulars from the Andrews roadside. This means this whole entrance can be staffed. Students are going only in one direction. Younger students can keep going. And once they get to the pre-existing parking lot, we're proposing some jersey barriers at the end of the parking spaces. We have enough width there to neck down this parking lot by 5 feet and still have adequate spaces plus backup and pull-in traffic. So they would go on the inside of those jersey barriers to a pre-existing crosswalk that goes to a pre-existing handicap ramp, curb cut. And so they could come across, and then they could either enter into the main entrance of the existing school, which I think Dr. Hackett thinks is a good idea because that's our controlled entrance, or conversely, they could, in theory, go down and enter into the entrance at the existing modulars, or they could, I suppose, go down and enter into the other end of the modulars. So we're going out, the documents are done, the procurement documents are essentially done. We're going, when it does go, and I think Andy in a minute is going to talk a little bit about schedule and procurement process. When it does go, it's going to go as a 14 classroom modular setup. It's going to go with the modular contractor providing constructing a new parking lot with some drainage, new ramps around associated with the building. And it will be on piers, so we're hoping to leave alone what's underneath it. Obviously, we're going to kill all the grass. However, we hopefully can maintain a lot of the parking lot. We're expecting them to do patching and the like at the end. And then we're telling them they need to restore the field, loam and seed and the like at the end of the project. The play area that's there now can remain. There is a play surface there. There are play structures. They can stay. And another one of the things about tilting this building ultimately was we were able to keep the play area, and that's a fenced in area. So that is kind of the scope. And in theory, it's going to go out on the street pretty soon. So anybody have any questions about it?
Mark does. Mark?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark.
Charlie, how are we doing on electrical service and on plumbing, all the plumbing connections?
Plumbing, everything's coming out of Andrews Street. So there's fire. So this is going to be sprinklered, even though the existing building is not sprinklered. It's fire service comes out of Andrews directly into the modulars. Domestic water and sewer come directly into the modular from the street. They'll have heat tape because they're going to have to obviously run under the modulars to get to the location of the bathrooms. Electrical will be, there's a new transformer proposed right up there, which is a pad-mounted transformer. And then electrical go directly into the modulars. So the only utility connections to the existing school is a fire alarm, because the fire department would like us to connect to the pre-existing fire alarm panel, which is over here in the entrance. So there will be a fire alarm wire that goes from one building to the other, and technology. And there's a pre-existing tech closet. It's not the primary server room, but there's a tech closet that has the capacity, I think it has a switch that can be used in the existing modular to connect to the new modular. So we have two interconnections to the existing building. One is tech, one is fire. Everything else is going straight to Andrews.
Geetha next, and then Brian.
I have a question, Charlie. I guess in your best intuition, how do you think the proposed modulars may be supported? I suppose is the existing modulars, is it supported on the sonotube out there? I haven't closely looked at it. The last time I was there years ago.
So we're calling for peers.
Okay.
So the modulars will engineer the piers, but we're calling for piers. So there's no foundation footings, anything like that. It's piers.
When you say piers, like a sonotube one, they had to dig into the ground and make the, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't believe they're going to dig them in. I don't know. I'm not sure if they dig them into the ground or not, actually.
Where I'm driving this question is, I don't know. Do you think it's a boulder field? I don't know. Just putting an idea. I have no idea.
I'll find out, but I don't think we're sinking these things.
Really?
They're sitting there
Okay.
on piers that are on the surface, I think.
Okay, because it's a
And
temporary one.
that's how they're going to sit there for 2 years.
Okay, if it's above ground, I have no problem, but I wasn't sure. How the is it the accessibility, would it work for all kinds of kids? Is
Well,
it ADA approved?
Yeah. So all the ramps are ADA accessible. The clearances should all meet handicap code.
Okay, I wasn't quite clear. You would still have kids in this existing Parker's Park, right? So how is
Correct.
how is
Absolutely.
the drop off is going to work for that? They can come into this island that you're showing? when
Yeah, so
drop
they
off?
would do the same thing. If you look at my cursor, so they'd come down this ramp around the front of the modulars by Andrews Road, down over behind these Jersey barriers, across this existing striped crossing of the parking lot to a curb cut. And then they'd be on the Parkhurst School side of the curb. And then they can either go in the main entrance or they could go down to the back entrance where the existing modular is. So that's their path of travel.
So you would force everybody to walk from the parking lot. Nobody can enter to 7 spaces or 4 spaces and just quickly drop the kids off and then turn around and go back.
That is totally district-driven operational question. I don't know, whatever Frank thinks is best. I'm not sure, I don't know how you'd pull it off, but I mean, maybe you could have, parents could conceivably be queued on Andrews Road, I guess. I don't know what would happen.
Yeah.
Or we may also, Geeta, be able to do like the walking bus idea. So if there are a couple of points where parents can, 3 blocks from school, 2 blocks from school, drop off their kids, they could walk right in as you suggest.
Maybe one other question. I wasn't quite clear, Charlie, but the drainage is quite very well handled. Anything that's draining off of the parking lot would be catched into this drainage ditch that you're sort of making do out there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, and the drainage design and drainage calcs have been sent to the acting town engineer for review.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian, you're on
On
mute.
mute. Have we had any preliminary conversation with Eversource yet about the timing of the transformer that would be required for the new modular structure?
So far, Meg has not been able to get any response out of them, but she has reached out to them, and we just gave Meg some conceptual loads and a half draft of a work order from our engineer. But the fact of the matter is, our engineer is not the engineer of record, and the only way we'll have final loads is from the vendor who's selected. So I'm not sure if we can send that to Eversource and get a response or not, but Meg's
yeah, I think so. I'll have the top half of that completed by the by the end of the day today, and I'll send it off to Tracy. Now that I'm submitting a work order, she'll respond to us. I think we'll be okay on the transformer. I say that because I have several going in on several jobs. It's not to say that they're not, a long lead item, but it's not like crazy long. They do have several, typically available. So we'll have to see, but we do need to initiate the conversation. But definitely have to get it going now. So,
I don't know if they prioritize schools ahead of commercial projects, or
I don't know what they do, Brian.
I don't know. I can tell you on the commercial side, like there's a lot of lab projects that are hearing lab conversions and office buildings that are hearing 18 and 24 months and
Yeah.
crazy timeframes for transformer
Yeah.
upgrades. So
Yeah.
I'd really caution that we dig in on that ASAP. Hopefully they prioritize schools, and it's not a crazy load, so it shouldn't be as challenging, but I'd flag that as something we really need to be all over. It's obviously a critical path.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
And Meg, can I just add real quick, Meg, given the delays we had getting the power for the building for the elevator, just be sure that whatever critical path items we need with the select board, like do we have to have would we need a hearing to put in another transformer? We wouldn't, would we?
There's gonna be an easement.
Ah,
So I don't know who does the easements. I'm sure that comes from the select board.
yeah, I just want to raise whatever town
Well,
responsibility.
I've never had to do an easement, Jay, for a transformer.
Even on your property, on the school's
Yeah.
property?
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually
I mean,
require.
I put in new transformers all the time. I mean, maybe. Typically, I mean, if we do need an easement, they would draft it out and the select board would sign it. It would not
Right.
require town meeting action, so it can be done fairly quickly. So if that's required, I don't see that delaying
Right.
anything.
I'm just raising it because if you have to have an actual public hearing, then there's requirements for publication in the newspaper and, it
Oh,
can
yeah,
take
no, I
2
mean,
or
if
4
if
weeks.
it's a grant allocation, those happen every week. It
Yeah.
would just happen.
That's all it is just to sign off, giving them permission to come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark,
It's a
you have a question?
straightforward process.
Do we need a generator?
There's no requirements for a generator on this.
Okay, great. No, I just thought I'd ask the question since it's a school.
Send them home.
Good. They'll love it. Day off school.
May I ask a loose question? So are we assuming here from the existing modulus to the new one that the kids have to, or the teachers or the staff have to literally get out of the building and then walk rain or snow to go there? Because is that correct? Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Not even a canopy that we can give them to make the
No.
life easy?
No.
We tried, Geetha.
Okay.
If
You know,
you
they're gonna-
connect it in any
they're
way,
toughen
you
up a
gotta
little
put a
bit.
sprinkler.
Yeah,
What's
I mean, they gotta toughen up a little bit. Gotta get them ready for the real world here.
So where's the school department going then?
Well, someplace dry and warm.
Miami.
We haven't got that
Working
all figured out
remotely
yet.
from Florida.
I mean, I'm more delicate.
Okay.
Peter Lawson has a question.
No, sorry.
Peter?
Good evening. All I was, I know it's early, but I assume that the contractor will be taking care of after the first year, the annual sprinkler testing and fire alarm testing on the modulars, and there'll be separate fire alarm from the Parkhurst, or are they requiring it to tie into that?
Rick wants it tied in to work off of that master box, Peter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a continuation. It might be like a sub node panel over there.
Yeah. So we just, before we get into that annual testing, just need to know who's doing what. You know what I mean? So it's not messy after the first year.
Right.
So I'm glad Peter asked that question. Since we're actually leasing these, Jay, for 24 months, I wonder, Andy, is that something that you can get into the RFP? Can that be a condition of the lease, the testing?
Yeah, we can make that as a part of the requirement on the RFP.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to discuss that because we can't have two different testing companies.
Right.
You know, the fire alarm is going to be an extension of the fire alarm system that's already in Parkhurst. So one testing company has to write off and take ownership of the whole thing. So
Right.
might
and
be
then
that
you're
we
gonna
need
have
to-
the sprinkler too is gonna be tied to that.
well, they don't have one in the Parkhurst.
No, but you're gonna have to tie it to the fire alarm.
Right,
part.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
just don't want it to be messy, that's all.
Sounds like it might make more sense to have your pre-existing.
they're going to have to. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? I don't see any hands. All right. Andy, I guess.
Let's see.
Next steps.
Oh yeah, we got next steps here.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, everyone's got share.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So here's an overview of the current schedule, and here's where we are today at the end of schematic design. So we're finalizing the modular RFP to go out on the street. We're proposing to start the central register this week and get the RFP out for November 30th. And you know, get the proposal at the end of December, and then after the debt exclusion vote in January, we would like to get the modular company on board, so that way we can get them to start the modular construction and have it ready for move in at the end of the summer. So where we are right now is the start of DD, and there will be a couple programming meetings in January and February, and then we'll be doing cost estimate in mid-February, and then value engineering to get us back on budget if needed. We're looking at sometime in March, and then submit the DD package to the MSBA at the end of March 2023. And then start the contract document design in April 2023 and move forward with the contract document. So that's where we are with the next 2 or 3 months schedule look ahead. So yeah.
Andy, do you want to talk for just a minute about the modular procurement process?
So we're looking, like I said, we're going to be putting this out on the street next week, and then at the end of the December, we're probably going to be getting like about 4 or 5 proposal. The process usually is similar to the designer's process. We're going to bring them in for interview, and then we're going to be ranking them. Also their fee proposal, we're going to be ranking them as well. So we're going to be selecting them based on qualification, not by their fee, but more on the qualification, similar to the designer selection.
So it's not going to be a public bid opening, Andy?
No, I think he will be receiving proposal, and then we're going to do the first analysis comparison, and then we'll send it to the review committee, and then we're going to shortlist about 3 firms and then bring them in for interview and then rank them. Right now we're looking to have them on board after the debt exclusion vote in like January 7 after that. And then we're going to bring it to this committee for a vote to bring the modular on board, the modular company.
Do you have a question?
So we did check with the schedule wise. We checked with a couple of companies, and they said it's doable, but we need to bring them on as early as January.
So my question is there a schedule requirement in the RFP in a big picture, like they have to commit to?
Yep.
Okay.
We put in there the substantial completion for the modular construction, I think June, the end of June.
I think you had a total modular and site completion like this first week in August, I think. That's what it used to be anyway.
Okay. Sorry, I think we extended it a little bit.
I know, Jay, you can answer. We have had a history of the modular company. Just curious, are there any schools kind of going through this kind of a time frame to learn something? I don't know, just asking.
Not that I know of. I mean,
So
we had our own issues before there was even problems with modulars.
Yeah.
As a committee, we had to drive up to New Hampshire just to to get a handle on what was going on, me, Bob, and the superintendent at the time.
Mhm.
But Chris, question?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. So this is probably as good of a time as any, just to kind of reiterate once again that, as I understand it, so there's actually two separate packages of work going on up at Parkhurst. So when Charlie said earlier, his engineer is not the engineer of record, he's talking about for the stuff related just to the modular. So we're putting about $500,000 worth of work into Parkhurst. That work is going to be a TAP A project with his team, and I will discuss it in a few minutes under authorizations. But the modulars is sort of one set of work that really Hill is managing. Parkhurst is the other, and just to be clear, that and for the rest of the committee's understanding, because I didn't really understand it till this week. So all the site work that's necessary, the parking lot and the ramp and so forth, even that, and then the stormwater management, that'll all be under the modular contract, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the Parkhurst project, which will be a conventional design bid build, publicly bid project, is generally, although not entirely, but generally interior improvements, mostly cosmetic.
And Frank, your hope is that ideally you'll be in a position where you've got people out of the top floor of Parkhurst. So if work is able to start late spring, it can.
Right, we're gonna take advantage of the April vacation week. We actually have the movers lined up now just to secure it, so we'll be good to go. We don't know exactly where yet, but. And the business office, for those of you who don't know, has already located at the high school. We wanted to have that be our permanent business address because we're not anticipating any kind of enrollment fluctuations for the high school. So it just keeps them there and not having we can move around like myself and others, but we wanted to nail them down there.
Thank you.
Anything else on this for Andy?
Just a clarification question I had. So the design work that TAP A did to this date, that was the previous town article that was passed in the past, correct?
Now, Springtown meeting appropriation was for the modular design, yeah.
Okay.
And that has already been approved as an amendment to the contract, our contract.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anything else? All right, next step's done. We're moving on to invoices. There's a package that went out.
So there's no invoices today, just two authorizations.
Two
I mean,
authorizations,
two,
okay.
yeah,
And
for
one of them
spending.
is the extension, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
one is town meeting voted to amend the use for the balance of the $1.5 million that was appropriated for schematic design. So now we can get TAP A under contract to continue moving forward on design development. And then the other is for VHB to continue working on the well field closure is a requirement of the well fields are closed. The land has been transferred to the school. Articles 97 has been removed. Now we need to prepare a notice of intent for the Conservation Commission for the filling of the wells. And we also need to file an ENF and probably an EIR. It should be pretty straightforward, but we'll know more once we get them under contract and can have a meeting with MIPA. So those are the two items we need voted on.
So motion to authorize the spending as outlined by Meg.
I had a question, but I don't want to hold it. I'm sorry.
Do you want to hold the vote? Do you want to ask your question, Geetha?
Right. I guess, Meg, you're the only one that gave me all the information about the wells and no question about it. I guess. What I was asking in a big picture is obviously the Lynch School project also may very well may need a MIPA and NOI, whatnot.
It will definitely need an NOI, but it will not need a MIPA. Yeah.
Okay, so that's being ruled out. So where I was going with the question is there a benefit in treating this pipe room, as a separate MIPA filing as opposed to considering together with the school? That was the thinking that I was going.
So the decision was made to permit with this, the NOI with the Conservation Commission separate from the school building project for two reasons. One, TAP A won't be ready and niche engineering won't be ready, and rightfully so, until the spring to submit the NOI to the Conservation Commission. We really want to wrap this up. And the Conservation Commission is being very detail oriented on the submission package for the school. So we thought it would be best to pull this out and totally get this thing dealt with and closed, so that it was no longer an issue when we were filing the NOI for the school project. There's a technical aspect to this closure that we weren't aware of, but it does require the MIPA filing. It should have been done, technically it should have been done before the Article 97 was removed, but that didn't happen. So we figure that this will just be, rubber stamping. That MIPA filing is not required for the school project. It's only required when you turn, drinking water source over and you end that use. So that if we can close this out and be done with it in a couple of months, then we won't have to think about it again.
So this, you're also talking about that 60 feet of well, correct, Marge?
Correct.
Meg, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so that this includes that. So may I turn around and ask, is there a case that they still have to go and find the well, or they have located the well?
No, the only reason, no, we do not have to fill the wells. We don't have to close the wells physically. The well field is closed regulatorily. The only reason why we're going before the Conservation Commission is because we want to physically fill the wells for structural purposes for the construction of the school. And because the area of the well field happens to fall within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. Otherwise, we would not be filing the NOI. We would only be filing the MIPA ENF.
Yeah, so I can appreciate enough, Meg, every single time I ask a question, you would turn around and turn it to VHP and you were keeping me on the loop. The only one lingering question that I have deep down in my view is there was a site plan that VHP had it in their package, Wellfield A, B, C, and then they had all the wells. If we have to see that plan overlaid onto the Lynch proposed school plan, it would just help answer the question, because I did see in the paragraph, pretty much what you just said. But I just thought, gosh, how can we visualize that? You see what I'm saying? You just said.
I'm counting on niche to be able to take.
Why do you say that? Because the VHB.
Well, let me finish my sentence.
What's that?
VHB has located the wells. Okay,
yes.
Niche has that information. So I'm counting on Niche and TAP A to take the information about where the wells are located, overlay where the school is going to go, and then understand that those wells that would be underneath the school, those are the wells that need to be filled. We don't need to fill the other wells. We don't need to find the other wells. They're under the playing field. They've been there for 50 years. So the only wells that we need to concern ourselves are the wells that would be physically located underneath the foundation of the school building.
So may I ask you, we play the role between two, the niche and the VHP. Can we at least see a plan that with the well field A, B, and C overlaid on the school, just with the same, the concern you just said a minute ago? I really want to see where that 60 feet well is sitting there. And I studied the attachment you sent, and I couldn't I couldn't sort of put together in front of me, but when I also read the little proposal that they have, but I thought it would be helpful. What the concern they said in the paragraph, could we have a visualization to see it, what's going to be built out there?
Charlie, I mean, eventually that will happen, right? It will have a plan that will show. I mean, because VHB will develop the specifications for filling the well. It's simply pouring, concrete into the well by a licensed well driller. It's a pretty simple specification, but that will have to be included in their NOI for the Conservation Commission. But Charlie, I'm assuming that you'll have a plan that will show the wells that need to be filled in your final CDs.
Yes, and I mean, in the meantime, it's easy enough to create this plan. We just need VHB's survey,
Okay.
CAD, and
That's
we'll
easy
take
enough.
that and merge it with a CAD site plan.
Okay.
I'm not convinced, and I'm sure if I say this, I'll be entirely wrong. So I probably shouldn't say it. I'm not convinced there are any wells under the proposed building. When I looked at that survey, I thought the extent of the wells ended at the sort of before the edge of the soccer field. So
And
we'll
that
see.
could be the
But
case.
we'll prove it out. One or the other.
Yeah, it's hard to see on these schematic diagrams.
You're right.
And
60 feet of well, that's the one concerns me. I want to know where is it? The depth,
So
I mean,
Meg, if you can arrange to get that transmitted to us, it shouldn't be a big
Yes.
drama to get that done.
Yep.
all right. All right, thank you.
Mark, do we still have your motion?
Yes. So motion to approve spending authorizations is outlined in Meg White's memo dated November 21st for Tapley Architects and VHB Engineers for the Lynch Elementary School.
I second it.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, roll call. And we have Frank. Aye. Brian,
Yes.
Todd,
Aye.
Geetha,
Aye.
myself, John,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Chris,
Hi.
John Miller's not here, Don,
Yes. Aye.
and Emily.
Aye.
Thank you, myself. So that passed. Moving on, we have, I think we just rolled that into the well-field authorization all in one with you. Do you need something else on that, Meg?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just sign the,
And the swing space, so we're good. I'll get that back to you. DD authorization is also part of that, correct? We did all three together?
yes.
Yep.
Didn't I include everything? Yeah.
You did, but we had them as separate items on the agenda.
Oh,
So we-
okay, yeah.
We
so
rolled
sorry
everything
about
up
that. Yeah.
into one item on the
They
agenda.
were all in my letter, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
So
all
we're
done.
good,
Yep, we're good.
This was just to be sure we didn't miss anything.
right? Next meeting dates, December 5th and December 19th. We have a hold in case we need it. We don't
And
know yet.
we're hoping, Jay, that there'll be an opportunity for some sort of update from the Sustainability Subcommittee on the 5th. We're meeting, Colleen, we're meeting on the 2nd, right?
On the second, yep.
Yeah. So hopefully there'll be more to share by the 5th, certainly by the 19th, but maybe something by the 5th.
Mark, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, is there any public outreach that needs to happen between now and January 7th regarding the debt exclusion vote?
Yeah.
So you want me to jump into that, Jay?
Sure, yeah.
So this is a good question, Mark. So I want to remind everybody, municipal employees, and that includes all of us. So it's not whether you're just staff and you're paid, you can be an elected or appointed municipal official, you're considered a municipal employee. So we cannot, for instance, as an EFPBC, go advocate that people vote one way or the other. What we can do is simply describe the challenge of the current building and our brilliant solution, and point out why it makes all kinds of sense and hope that people support it. But as individuals, we can certainly reach out to our friends and neighbors and encourage them to vote one way or the other. You'll know how I'm voting. There is I understand a community group that has sort of coalesced to try to take on some advocacy for Lynch. And in fact, they're having a meeting, I think, later on tonight. They were waiting to kind of see the outcome of town meeting. So I think that work it's early, but it's just beginning. And they have reached out. I know they've reached out to me looking for some. One of them reached out to me just the other day, wanting to be sure they had the language of the ballot question correct, which is great. It's because we have that information, thanks to Meg. And I think they've reached out to Frank for some operational questions. So that's kind of what I know. I don't know if Frank has any other insight, but I think the only thing one thing we could do that we've kind of kicked around, Mark, is now that town meeting is behind us, would it make sense for us to have another couple of informational meetings? You know, we've had a couple that we've obviously had a lot of folks from the Lynch community show up for those. And then we had one focused on town meeting, but now that we're out of the gates, maybe it's a good idea to have another couple of meetings. And I might talk to Rich Mucci if he wants to actually participate, and give him an opportunity to talk about that second question, you know, for neighborhood safety, traffic, and so forth.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Wow, really ahead of schedule. Nice.
Wow.
Motion to
Good
adjourn.
Second.
All right. So Frank, Lisa,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Todd,
Aye.
Keitha,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
and Emily.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
All right. Good
All right.
night, everybody.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
you,
Yes.
everybody.
Aye.
Yeah.